purposeful path is the path where we follow our truth, our actually authentic self.
We are heroes and dreamers. We are restless believers, stronger than
I am
ever.
so excited and so grateful to have such a dear friend and really inspiring woman on the show today. Charlotte, thank you so much for being here and welcome to my podcast.
I am so grateful to be with you because every time I see you, I just think like the energy flows and it's just like a huge explosion of ideas and things that want to come to this world. And I'm so grateful, to be here with you.
Me too. And it's so amazing. It's every time actually when we come together, I feel like it's two super inspired people and then just kind of like an energy
Absolutely.
expansion explosion. So I'm very grateful that we'll have a conversation about, and I think there's so much to learn from your journey, and this is why I want to start with your personal journey, how you kind of like used to live your life 10-15 years ago, what your goals were back then, how you kind of like how much you tapped into your intuition or not, how much you were living a life that you maybe thought you were expected to live versus a life that was aligned to you, and kind of the path that changed to the woman that you are today and the life that you're living right now.
Yeah, I mean, it has been an incredible journey. Sometimes I sit here and I think, oh my God, I can't believe it feels like 1 million lives I've lived. And I think you know that feeling. I was in fashion. I was in the fashion industry, and I was working actually as manager and CEO of a luxury fashion brand in Vienna. And from the outside, I had everything. I mean, people came up to me and they were always like, "Oh my God, you made it in life, and you have this great income, and you have everything." But in my heart, I felt devastated. I felt like, oh my God, I don't know who they are talking about. I mean, this is just, I felt empty. I felt anxiety. I had panic attacks. I had depression. I had two burnouts. I was constantly sick. And at one point, I just knew that I had to change something, because if I wouldn't change, I would start getting severe sickness. I just felt it. And I didn't know how to change at that time. I just knew I had to change. And my intuition actually was getting stronger and stronger as well. And I always followed my intuition, but at the same time, it was really difficult because from the outside, people would keep on saying like, "Oh, you and your like gut feeling, and who cares? Can you actually prove it that it's this way?" And all these expectations from all my friends and family, and yeah, so I kept on following my intuition, and I knew life would bring it to me at that time where I really needed to. And then a friend came and she said, "You have to go see the shaman." And I thought, oh my God, now I'm like, shaman. Oh my God. What is she? And then she convinced me, and she wanted to convince me to do plant medicine actually at that time. And I was like, never. I would never, ever do plant medicine. And I went to the shaman, and she did like, literally, I spent there 6 hours or 8 hours. And she did, I don't know, all kinds of stuff. And on the way out, I met a friend by coincidence. And he said to me, "So are you coming to the ceremony, plant medicine ceremony?" I'm like, never, ever. I'm never going to touch this. And on the next day, I woke up and I thought, I have to go to the ceremony. And I actually did. I went to the ceremony, and after a few ceremonies, like 4 or 5 ceremonies, I decided to quit my job and leave corporate world behind. And I didn't have any plan. I didn't know how. I didn't know what I'm going to do. I just knew this is not my way. And I decided if I don't do it now, I will never do it. So I went to Brazil for 3.5 months for a silent retreat. And I didn't talk for 3.5 months. And I also did plant medicine. And after that, I came back And then I thought, oh my God, now I'm like, what am I going to do with life? And I was a typical spiritual bypasser. I mean, seriously, I was like meditating all the time. I went around like more like, ooh, like this, and everything was just like amazing and everything was wonderful. And it was sort of until my bank account told me, well, life is waiting for you. So um, I remembered that I really wanted to work in NLP. I did an education in NLP and I loved that. And um, so I decided to work for the NLP Academy in Vienna for 2.5 years. And I did all my education as a coach. And then I also did my Reiki in education. So I became a Reiki master. I did that in Malaysia. And I started combining psychology with spirituality because I thought it must be both. It can't be just spiritual, but it can't be just psychology. There's both inside of us, and it has to kind of bridge together. And I found that this was kind of a missing link because a lot of times it's either or, but I kind of think the future is both, to have it all. So so that's kind of my journey of the last years in a very small, short version of it.
I love it. And thank you for your honesty that you were spiritual bypassing, because that's something I actually like. You know that I'm a very spiritual person, but I've never experienced that. Like, to me, it's more I gotta take the breaks and really like make sure that I do all my spiritual practices and so on, because I think so grounded in the normal world. And I noticed, especially, that we were in Bali and we were in Ubud, and I noticed so many spiritual bypassers. And I was thinking back then a lot about like life and how spirituality, like what does it mean to me? And I really like, from my perspective, spirituality is something that is supposed to help us and support us to kind of ignite our full potential and live the life we're supposed to live, and like make the best out of this human life that we're given. Like, I see us as being souls, but we do have a human body and we live a human life. And I believe for that, spirituality is just always this kind of like this connection that we never lose, even when we come into our body, that is supposed to support us and to guide us and so on. But still, we do have this life, and it comes down to us to make the most out of it with that guidance. And I experienced so many, that I'm also like very linked to the yoga community and so on. And I experienced so many people who get too much sucked into spirituality, and it starts to, other than being a help or a supportive system, rather than to be the next escapism. Just like, some people use Netflix or something as kind of like escaping their lives, and other people like start to notice that when they meditate and so on, that like we feel good afterwards. So this is also like a path to escape from the struggles, the challenges that our human lives just kind of like that we signed up to. How do you see that?
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, it was kind of like, I had this feeling always that after work, I would come home and I would start crying. And I thought, I just want to go home. I mean, I just want to go home. And at that time, I didn't understand that home wasn't a physical realm, but more my soul. And it was always very easy for me at the same time to step out of my body. So I was somebody who, there was something inconvenient for me. Oh, I just step out of my body. I'll do my body, do the work, and then I'll go back into my body. So I was not very grounded. And when I came into the spiritual world, it was like, oh my God, I'm finally like home, because it allowed me to give like a permission to be outside of my body and not accept my body and not accept my life here on earth. And it was okay. And it was like, yeah, that's fine, because you're spiritual now. And now you can just float around the universe and it's totally fine. And it's practically home. But then I discovered that I never lived life. I never experienced life through going out of my body, because every situation that was actually meaningful, I didn't experience because I couldn't be in the emotion. Because every time there was emotion, I fled out of my body. So I did a lot of emotional work and body work as well, and in combination with spiritual work, and bringing the spiritual realm into my body was actually the more exciting thing, because all of a sudden life got so fascinating and life got so um, abundant and fulfilling, and it became this world where I saw, oh my God, actually the path is my purpose. It's really like every step in my life is my purpose. It's just to be alive and just to feel and to listen to your intuition and be guided by this intuition and follow the way. And so, yeah, I was very happy to have this experience to really leave the spiritual bypassing part behind and really bring it into my body and find that bridge.
What helped
Yeah.
you to get more grounded in your body and to also learn, one of the things is why we escape our bodies because we kind of can't handle our own emotions. So obviously
Yeah.
you learned to deal your like find different coping mechanisms to handle your emotions. What were the things that helped you?
Well, it was a couple of things. One thing was to do a lot of shadow work. So the shadow work was one of the main key points in my life, because it showed me that actually every emotion is being welcomed. It's just a prejudice. It's just our saying, oh, this is bad, this is good, but actually nothing is bad or good. And it's bringing this side back to me, that I'm allowed to be angry, I'm allowed to be sad, I'm allowed to be all these kind of parts of me, brought me back to a whole. Because I didn't realize, by saying, oh, these are bad emotions and this is bad, that I actually told half of myself it's bad, that I actually neglected half of myself, and that I couldn't be whole if I keep on neglecting that, and I couldn't feel filled, because I'm not full if I don't accept half a part of me. So that was a long journey, emotions, because I had difficulties feeling them in the first place. So I really had to name them. I really had to take time to feel them. A lot of meditation into emotions. I did Byron Katie. I did a lot of things that just really forced me to look into my emotions, really. And grounding, I got a lot more into nature, a lot more into also more mindfulness, but not mindfulness in the sense of just sitting here, but mindfulness of hearing, smelling, touching, these kind of things, to really feel and to stop, to take time, because I'm always in a rush. I was always like, I have a lot of energy sometimes, and then I'm always like from one to there, and I do three things at once. But to really bring it down and say, okay, stop. What do you smell now? What do you feel now? Even if it's a second, but just to kind of stop. That, yeah, that was it.
Thank you for sharing. That's beautiful. And I can very much relate. You already mentioned right now the kind of like your purpose, and you have the wonderful ability or the wonderful superpower of helping people to find their purpose.
Yeah.
So, what would you say? Like, how can we find our purpose? How can we figure it out what our purpose is? And also, how do you see or how would you define our purpose? Because,
Mhm.
it's a buzzword that's thrown around a lot, but is it kind of like what we came here as souls, or how would you define it as well?
Hmm. So, in my definition, the purpose is not one thing, because I noticed with a lot of clients that a lot of people are looking for this one thing they're here to do. And actually, under my perception, the purpose is not that one thing, it's the path. And a purposeful path is the path where we follow our truth, our actually authentic self. And that already is, for the majority, and it included myself, and it still does sometimes, is very difficult because we have been conditioned since very early on to be this kind of person or this kind of person. So we've been conditioned, and it's about letting the conditioning behind, where we think we have to be, but start becoming who we truly are. And in being truly who we are, the purpose is every step we take, because then nothing in life is more about fulfilling somebody's expectations, but more of growth. It's about growing. It's about expanding the truth inside of you and finding the truth inside of you. And so that's, for me, is the purpose, one place. And the second thing is that a lot of clients I have, they come to me and they say, well, I'm not happy. I'm not happy in my job. I'm not happy maybe in my relationship, but I don't know what I want. And I think that's the biggest lie I've ever heard, because it takes me exactly one coaching session usually to find out what somebody wants. So it's not what the person wants or truly desires from the truth, from the heart, from the authentic self, but more the fear of actually walking this path and what it takes to walk this path and the courage that it takes to walk this path. So when I work with clients, they come to me and they're very surprised, because they're always like, I don't know, and you'll see, I'm different. We're not going to figure it out. And after an hour, it's like, oh my God, actually, it's so obvious. And I think we just forgot to dream and allow ourselves to dream and allow ourselves to actually say, yeah, that's always what I dreamt of, and I'm worthy of having it. Because most people think they are not worthy, and maybe they don't even know they don't think they're not worthy, but it comes in little sneaky ways that, we sabotage ourselves into this, I'm not allowed to live my dream. It's not for me, it's for others. So yeah, it's about following the authentic path, the inner truth, the heart, following the intuition, because the intuition is actually the voice that tells us what our truth is, and then allowing to dream and have the courage to walk the path. And I think that's the most challenging. Yeah. I mean,
Absolutely.
you know that you've been
Absolutely.
super courageous. I mean, really, if somebody is courageous, I mean, you are like super courageous. You have done so many things, from yoga junkies to Bali to, I mean, you know how it is, like leaving everything behind so many times, how difficult it is. And it is, but at the end, I mean, it's so rewarding.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's just, and I always think, like, with all these things, when I look back, like certain things or certain steps that I took, like, didn't directly lead anywhere or something, or were kind of like energy. And then I figured out, like, for example, we started a subscription box. Like, for years, we put all our love and effort into it. And at some point, I noticed it doesn't make me happy anymore. But I believe that all these steps are also like, it's not about doing that one thing or doing that other thing. It's about who we're becoming on this path.
Yes,
And that's kind of like
absolutely.
something that nobody can ever take away from you, the person that you become when you walk that path. And I always find that so fascinating. That's, in the end, it's not about the business that we're creating. It's not about the family that we're, or whatever our dream is. It comes down to who we are going that path. And yeah, I always
Absolutely. And
that makes it so fascinating.
it's so fascinating. And I really can see, I mean, it's beyond anyone's imagination to see what can evolve out of that kind of opening up to this path. I mean, things are happening I could have never imagined. And it's like when we talked, you were like, also, I could have never imagined that this is going to happen in my life, and things like just flow this way. And it's the same with my clients. Sometimes they tell me, they're like, Charlotte, it's like, I can't even believe this is happening to me, because I couldn't even imagine it. And it's just opening up in this is just an incredible, wonderful journey. Yeah. That's why I love what I do so much. It's like,
yeah. I fully understand. So but for somebody listening or watching right now who is in exactly the same position like you were, I don't know how many, 10 years ago, I was, I don't know how many, 2016 or something like this, kind of like knowing, being deeply unhappy, feeling unfulfilled, feeling like life feels so like without any meaning, even though we have everything that we've always wanted and our life from the outside seems so perfect, but yet inside we feel kind of like hopeless, maybe depressed, maybe anxious, whatever the emotions are. And so often in these situations we're so stuck up in our heads, like you said, your clients say like we won't figure it out because we're so much in our heads. So for somebody who is right now in that position, what can he or she do? What's your advice for that person?
Yeah, I now I can hear you again.
Perfect.
So yeah, you were asking what would I tell a person, right? That way.
Exactly.
So I would first tell this person to get help, actually, because I think that one of the things, I always thought I have to do everything by myself. I always thought, oh, I have to have every idea by myself. I have to do, like, the whole world is just like me. I'm alone. So when I started going to that shaman back then, I realized there's so much help out there, and there's so many people there that support you, and it's good to get support. That's the first thing. The second is start meditating, which is really not what a lot of people think meditation is, because meditation for me is about learning the difference between your mind and your heart. So really to learn that we are not our mind, we are not this body, we're this exceptionally great soul, and to really connect to the soul and to connect to this intuition, because this connection will help us to guide our way. And the third thing is get rid of that thought that there's this one thing, and take small steps. It doesn't have to be everything tomorrow, because a lot of people are like, oh, everything has to be now. It has to be right. And I was that way. I was super impatient, and I thought it has to be now. But truly it doesn't. So it's the path. And yeah, I think for that, it's if you do that, that's a lot. So yeah.
And would you say meditating is kind of like the key to tapping in that situation into our intuition? Or how can we learn, if we're so much up in our head and so much like can't see, kind of like can't see our way through something, how can we then tap our best into our intuition and reconnect with this gut feeling that we just intrinsically have?
So I think it's a combination of more things, actually. Meditation is certainly one of the biggest keys, just because meditation, as I said, gives you the possibility to defer between mind and your heart. Because a lot of people have this idea that meditation is just to be about, sitting there for hours, but it's not that, for me, it's not that way. And at the same time, I think what's important from the psychological part is to work on the limitations that we were raised to have about our life, who we're supposed to be, And it doesn't matter about relationships, work, money, health. We have so many limiting beliefs, so many beliefs around everything. So it's a process of kind of transforming these beliefs so we can actually become who we're meant to be, become this being that we feel in meditation, because in meditation often we feel where we feel expanded and great and amazing. And then in meditation I sometimes think, I don't know what my problem is with the mind. I don't understand. Everything is amazing. But then once I'm back, then like daily life kind of brings me back into my mind. And then it's important to work with the psychological aspects of it. That's what my, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And things like you said before, also like going out in nature and so on, are
Yes.
also, I think, like a very
Yes.
important key. Or
Yeah.
those are the things that really help me also to tap into my intuition.
Absolutely. And also things like, what music do I listen to? What people surround me? What food do I eat? How much do I move my body? So all these things are important when it comes regarding to living our authentic self. Yeah.
Absolutely. What would you say were your biggest lessons on this whole journey that you went through the last, like on your whole spiritual and personal development journey?
Oh, wait. Wow. What a great question. What is my biggest lesson? So my
You
biggest
can name a
lesson,
few if it's easier. Like to, I think it's always very hard to like to name one. Do so if you can, but you can also name three or four or something. It doesn't have to be just one.
so I think one of my biggest lessons was emotions. So to deal and to feel my emotions and to work with my emotions. I think that was the biggest. Um, the second thing is also going to the energetic realm. So really starting to realize, what is energy? How can I use energy? What does working with energy mean? Because I work a lot, as I said, mind, body, but also energetically. And working with energy gave me a whole different view on life, seeing that everything is energy. And I can see that, I can feel right now, you can totally understand what I mean. Yes, so energy work was a big change in my life.
Is that what drew you to Reiki?
Yes, it drew me to Reiki. So I always had the feeling there was something coming out of my hands, and I always had this feeling that I have a healing power. And my aunt, who lived in Malaysia for over 30 years, she was a Reiki teacher. So I knew her from the past because I used to watch her a couple of times. And then I just called her and I was like, listen, I want to learn Reiki. I'm going to come to Malaysia and I want to really learn from you how to work with energy. And because until now I was working more with the mind, and mind work, that's maybe number three in my biggest learnings, is that what we're thinking is what we create. So yeah, so when I went to Malaysia, I learned Reiki, and it really changed a lot for me because it showed me how I can connect to my intuition. It showed me how can I work with my body, but also with my energy. Yeah.
Amazing. I love to talk about these topics. This is truly to me like once the world, I came through this world kind of through yoga. And once this
Mhm.
door opened, like because even yoga was for me like, I don't know, 15 years ago, like I thought these people like sitting in a circle all like long here. Like I had so many prejudice over everything. I was like, all of this is nothing for me, this woo-woo
Mhm.
stuff and so on. And then
Mhm.
once you start to like open yourself up to the first things and stuff, and it's getting like one thing after the other makes you understand actually we know nothing about ourselves and about this whole human journey and about life. And I find it so fascinating to dive deep into these topics and to see also on how many levels we can change our life. And I
Yes.
it's like for the one person feels like very drawn to the mindset work, and that is kind of the thing that changes the mind the most or the life the
Mm-hmm.
most. And some
Mm-hmm.
other people like find, like for me it was yoga at the beginning, or some
Mm-hmm.
other people find spirituality and so on. And it's just so fascinating how like a door opens and then like all these varieties of topics that
It's,
can just bring us back to who we're actually supposed to be.
yeah, and actually for me, it's all the same thing, just from another perspective. And it's incredible when one's like the different perspectives, and then I mean we're all talking about the same thing kind of, and it's just a different perspective, which I think is the most fascinating thing of all. And this journey has been so rich and so wonderful. And for me, Reiki also was the door to my intuitive capabilities, like being visionary and being, the psychic abilities. So it gave me a frame to develop these. And that was super enriching as well, because actually we're psychic beings. I mean, all these telepathy, having all these kind of it's normal. Actually, it's our normal state. We just have forgotten it, and that is what fascinates me the most in this whole journey, is that we start really becoming life. It's just all over. Yeah.
Absolutely. What helped you to kind of like fine tune your telepathic skills again? Because I think we do have them a lot as kids. I think kids are so like they notice everything. If something is wrong in the room, if you have like some little emotion, I think a little kid notices it. But at some point we get like untrained and we forget them because we get so, I don't know if it's just over time that we're like longer on this planet called Earth, or if it's just that we are not cultivating as much as maybe some
Mm.
other tribes with way who live with shamans and who live in or tribes in Amazonas or whatever. But what helped you to like connect with them again and to get them more advanced again?
So it was really Reiki. For me, it was the path with Reiki, but I'm sure actually it was a mix of all, because getting back into these psychic abilities is also how much of this onion, we're like an onion, and we have all these things around our essence, around our truth. And once we start peeling this onion, we get more sensitive to our true talents and capabilities. But Reiki gave me the possibility to really work or transform into my psychic abilities. So I started after a while also channeling and having a strong mediumship, and being more telepathic or seeing the future. And it's something that just came by natural development when you start working with energy. And I don't think, because a lot of people are scared of it and say, "Oh my God, but what happens?" And da da da. It's not like something is if you don't want it, you won't have it. So if you don't want it, you won't use it. So it's not like you're forced of anything, to be anything. And I think everybody gets the right thing to the right time, where it's meant to be, and where we can actually live these capabilities. But it was Reiki for me to make it short again. So yeah.
Amazing. It's actually fascinating that you started with one of the most intensive sessions, or like that you started all of this journey with plant medicine, which is, kind of like very much shutting down the ego and getting you right into a spiritual realm. Um, do you want to share some incident or some message that came, or one experience or something that came for you when you worked with plant medicine?
That's very interesting that you asked it, to me. I can actually tell a story from now, um, which is, so I started plant medicine, and for me, I was this kind of, okay, I don't care what I do. I just have no, I have to change my life. So I kind of, okay, there it is, plant medicine. And so I was like, okay, better, like, I don't care, just change my life. And I took a radical cut actually, because after only 5 experiences with plant medicine, I went to Brazil to live with shamans and to actually take plant medicine and be in silence. And there I had a very an experience that keeps on coming in my life. And it's actually with Isis. And it's interesting you asked me, and I'm just saying what comes up now from my intuition, but it's actually that. I had this experience with um, the Egyptian goddess Isis, and she came to me and she said, well, you should pray to me. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going crazy. It's like, what is this? I mean, what is this world? I'm just going crazy. So I was like, no, I'm just in my imaginary dream world. This is all nonsense and everything. And after a while, it came like from every corner, like ISIS, ISIS, ISIS. People started on telling me about it. Books came, movies came, and it actually took me until last week. And that's why I'm telling the story, because last week I had this experience where again it came and it said, okay, work also with this feminine energy, with this, like, because Isis was like the mother of all mothers. So work with this feminine energy, work with this, with that. And I thought, again, I'm going crazy because it comes to me already since 5 years, and I'm like, no. And my friend came after, and she said, I have a present for you, and she gave me an Isis goddess into my hands. And then I started to realize, okay, this is not all crazy. It's when our intuition, when something comes to us, it's actually true. It really happens. It's just about following it as well. And I think the biggest thing I learned around plant medicine was to open up to this wonderful, mysterious world which we can't understand. It's beyond everything we can understand, and trust into life that it's true, and yeah, what we're experiencing. So yeah, I don't know if that was. It's not exactly it's not exactly an absolute insight, but it's something that I experienced.
It's beautiful. And it's actually very funny that you said she's kind of like the mother of feminine energy and so on, because I experience you as a super, like somebody who's super in their feminine energy. I know it's not always been like this. And
Yeah.
also to me, you have this nurturing, mothering aura around you. I don't know how else to say. So I find it must have a meaning.
Yeah, and it's, yeah. Oh, thank you so much, really, from the bottom of my heart. It's really, to also talk about these things is is already a journey for me, because for a long time I had a lot of things I noticed, but then I didn't. It takes also courage, and yeah.
Well, it definitely takes generally a lot of courage to live the life that you've lived so far, and every step that you're taking. So you can be so proud of yourself. You're such an inspiring woman. And for everybody who's watching or listening who wants more of Charlotte right now, you have a challenge coming up. So tell us more
Yes.
about that.
So I have a challenge coming up, and it's all about purpose. Um, And the challenge is about really getting into your purpose and understanding and seeing what is it you're dreaming of. So allowing yourself to dream, figuring out what keeps you from living your dream, your purpose, and stepping really into your purpose. So this challenge will be end of May, 30th of May until 1st of June, every day from 7:30 p.m. And it will allow you to really feel your purpose. And that's my goal. Yeah, and I welcome everyone who's interested in going and walking the authentic, true path to themselves.
Wonderful. It's for free, so you can just join
Yes.
and spend 3 wonderful days with Charlotte. I will link everything in the show notes. And to you, a big, 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 big thank you from the bottom of my heart for spending your time with us, for sharing your super inspiring story, and for being such a wonderful friend and just walking the journey alongside with me.
Thank you so much, Hannah. You've been inspiring me, and your energy, your power, your whole being, it has been not only an inspiration, but it's just every time I see you, I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours, and it feels like there's so much energy that wants to just create. And I think that's so special. I really don't have it with so many people, and just experience this just for an hour at least, like here now again. It's just wow, my heart opens. And so thank you so much for having me, for being this open, heartful, and loving person, and spreading so much love and joy in this world. Thank you so much.
Now, I would like to know from you, what was your biggest takeaway and how can you put it into action starting now? Leave a comment below or hop over to Instagram at HannahWiz_ and leave a comment under the post of today's episode. Thank you so much for watching, and never forget to shine your light.